Hey everybody, it's Misha. Today I'm going to talk to you about something that's kind of hard and and difficult, but a lot of people deal with this. A lot of people, lose loved ones and people that are close to them, and it's kind of they're tough waters to wade through. And I'm just going to share with you what helped me. Let's dive in. Okay, so first I just want to say, um, I'm not presuming to know what you're going through. I know that a lot of people who experience death experience it in a lot of different ways. Um, Two of the ways that I have experienced it that have been like closest to home for me, besides grandparents and that kind of thing, are I lost a little girl when she was 9.5 months old, and I also lost my dad when he was 54 years old, and he passed away 8 years after my daughter. Okay, so I just want to share with you some things that helped my heart heal. That helped my heart. It's hard to even say that word heal because this is a long process. This is a long and tough process. But what I wanted to share with you is just the way that looking at death in a little bit of a different light helped me process. Whenever the story of my little girl comes up, just in conversation with people who I've met maybe for the first time, or sometimes I've known people for a long time, and they just start to learn of my story. They just start to learn, that I had a little girl when I was young. You can see the beginning of that story here, and, her short life and the events that happened with that. I typically get a response from people that, like, I'm so sorry I brought that up, or they're really, really tender and gentle. And I think people, I respect them highly for those things and those comments. For me, I don't feel that way. As long as long as they can handle talking about it, I can handle talking about it. And the reason why I feel like I've gotten to that point is because I start to understand that when I talk about her, it helps me feel close to her, and it helps her become less distant, because as the years continue, I personally appreciate feeling that closeness when she's brought up. So I honor it, and I think it's a great thing. Some people, I know they shy away from it, and it's really hard for them to talk about, and it just brings up a lot of feelings that maybe they haven't processed, or maybe they just don't even know where to start or don't know what to do with. So that's why I'm making this video. It's a really cool story, you guys. My dad passed away 8 years after my daughter passed away. He helped me process a lot of those feelings, a lot of that experience, and I want to share that with you. So, my little girl passed away when she was 9.5 months old, and I'll have a lot more of that story to tell you guys. And like I said, I love talking about it. It helps me feel and connect. So, if you have more questions about that, leave it in the comments below, and I'll answer your questions. I'll do more videos and answer more. But she passed away in January, and she was 9.5 months old, and man, it was really hard, really, really tough. I was pretty dang young at the time, and was really new to life in general, let alone heavy. I know I'm not the only one who experiences heavy life at a young age. I totally get that. But it was really cool what my dad taught me. So I remember having a conversation with my dad maybe around the time of February, and I remember him talking to me about death. And I remember him telling me that a lot of times people associate death with a way that they're supposed to feel, that maybe when death day comes around, they feel like they're supposed to be sad. And they feel like they're supposed to mourn on that day, or maybe be upset or whatever. But he taught me, he said in that moment, he said, Mish, he said, promise me that you'll always be authentic to what you feel. Don't try to create how you're supposed to feel. And you can choose however you want to spend that energy. And he talked to me, and I love the way he put it to me, because he put it to me as a possibility. Okay, he didn't give it to me as a way that I was supposed to do it. He just gave me a couple of ideas. Okay, and one of the ideas that he proposed, one of the ideas that he proposed to me is to celebrate her on her birthday. Okay, because that is a significant time of celebrating her birth, her life, her existence with me, her existence like here on this earth. And, not the sadness of death, not the sadness. And you know what? If death day comes around and you're sad, hey, that's authentic and it's real, so feel it. But don't put that day on your calendar like it's a day that you're supposed to mourn, and you're supposed to, drag yourself through the dregs of that day. And trust me, those first years of that day are somewhat hard, because it's like inevitable that you're going to feel those things. But then I think sometimes those things turn into rituals, and and things that you feel like you have to do, feelings you're supposed to feel like you have to have, and it's not even real or authentic. So I really appreciated my dad's suggestion, and I took it on, and I said, okay, we're going to celebrate her birthday. We're going to celebrate big time on her birthday. We're going to celebrate her life and who she is. Her very first birthday, we took, like, a bunch of family got together, and this was just a couple of months after she had passed away. And we got together, and we got a bunch of balloons, like helium balloons, and we all, we had like a barbecue, and during the barbecue, we took the time to write messages to her, like with marker all over the balloons. And then we went to her grave, and together we let the balloons go. And those kind of experiences, those things are extremely like healing, especially when you create them and they come from an authentic place, whether it's a good idea that you heard somewhere or whatever. But as long as you associate with that, and then it comes from your heart, and you do those things can be really therapeutic. So I really loved the way that my dad encouraged, do the things that feel normal, real, and natural. Be like authentic with your feelings. Maybe you're going to be like devastated, a couple months or a couple years or whatever later. Those are the times maybe you're going to have a hard time, and be authentic to those times and let yourself feel those feelings. But don't tell yourself you're supposed to feel one way or another, or that you're supposed to honor them by, doing this long list of XYZ or whatever, because you know how you feel about your loved one, and you don't have to prove it to anybody by doing any sort of ritual. You don't have to do any of that. That all comes authentically. Do what's in your heart. So I love that he coached me through those thoughts and those ways of feeling authentic about these feelings that are going to come no matter what. So I love this wording, okay? And the wording is also a perspective, because just changing the wording changes your perspective. Whenever my dad referred to death, he didn't refer to death as death. He referred to it as graduation. The day that Taylor graduated, or that she has graduated from this life, okay? And the thought that goes along with that is that our feelings and the way our hearts are broken, it's because, like, we're a little bit selfish, and we wanted them here with us, and we wanted to experience life with them. They made our life better or they contributed to our life in a way. We had so much love for them, and now there's a hole. Okay, and those are selfish thoughts. They're valid, they're real, and they're okay to feel, but they're selfish. Recognize, yeah, it's okay that they're probably hurting too because they didn't want to leave their loved ones. But guess what? Where they are, they have other loved ones too, just like we have other loved ones here. The idea is that when they graduate and they go on to a different state, that it's a progression for them. And if we can plant like a tiny seed of that in our life and say, okay, look, they are moving forward, they're moving to a different place, and we can start to think of it differently, we can be happy for them. I know that's a jagged pill. I know that's a hard one to swallow, especially in the face of fresh hurt. Okay, I know that that's hard, but I know it's true. I know that both with my daughter passed away. Hers was a sudden death and a surprise, and my dad's, he had had cancer for 8 years, and the last bits of that were a lot of suffering, and so it's almost like that freedom. And I can't tell you which one's better or which one's worse, okay? Because they both hurt. They both hurt. But for both of those circumstances, I can say, I really am happy for them to be in a different place. I really can say that I'm happy for them, okay, to be in a better place, and that they've graduated. And guess what? Here's a secret. Here's a secret that people who have lost loved ones, and if you've lost loved ones and you haven't experienced this yet, I promise you will. I promise that you will. You have the privilege of experiencing some tender things as you go through your life that always come up very unexpectedly, never when you plan. But you can see them as angels in your life. And I know that that's true. I know that they can still be a part of our life from far away. And I can't explain it, but I felt it and I've experienced it. And I know it's true. So I think if we can just shift our paradigm a tiny bit, where we can find a little bit of joy, that it gives our heart a little bit more peace, and it gives us a little bit more to go on. And I love that. That certainly helped me deal with death, deal with life. Oh my gosh. Because life keeps going, right? Life keeps going whether we like it or not. So I'm grateful for some of these perspectives. Another perspective or paradigm shift that my dad taught me about is that funerals are a celebration of someone's life. A lot of times we look at funerals as a way to mourn, and that is definitely a huge part of funerals, okay? But if you can also take on the idea that funerals are a way and a time to literally sit back and gather photos and videos and compile things that you can show friends and family about things that they never knew about this person, and that you can talk about and reminisce about your favorite stories about them. Oh my gosh, that is so powerful when you can look at it from a perspective of like, we are here to celebrate the time that we had with them. We're here to celebrate. We're here to celebrate and do that. And you know, that goes back to those feelings that, you know, what are we supposed to have and what are we not supposed to have, and that dangerous walk that sometimes we do. And you know, I remember one time we went to a funeral. My dad and I went to a funeral of a neighbor that had passed away, and he was pretty young when he passed away. He was like maybe late teens or early 20s, and he had an accidental death. And it was interesting. We went to this person had been one of his scouts growing up, and we went to this kid's funeral. And afterwards, my dad and I had a conversation about how it's interesting how much even more you get to know somebody at their funeral, and how that's kind of a sad thing. But it's what funerals are meant to do. Funerals are meant to truly celebrate all the angles of a person, and to reminisce and tell those stories and see those pictures and just celebrate in those memories. So it's a neat thing when you can kind of take that on as celebrating who they are. So just in going back to the idea of choosing where you're going to put your energy, okay, when you lose a loved one, choosing, are you going to sign up for the ritualistic things that you're supposed to do, or do you want to be authentic? You know what I mean? Like, to me, that was a really awesome distinction. To me, it was an awesome distinction. And so when my loved ones have birthdays, the people that I've been really close to who have passed, on their birthdays, I try to do things that are reminiscent of them. Okay, so like I eat their favorite foods, or I have a party, or I celebrate in some way. Like, try to do something I know that they would want me to do, or that I know would bring me closer to them. I try to talk about them, like especially with my kids. I love to take those days and to teach them, who their sister is, or teach them about their grandfather, and tell more stories, or celebrate with them and help them to see that this is a special day. This is a day where we were blessed to be graced by this life, who is an angel to us now, who, helps us from heaven. That's a cool and empowering thought. So what's really cool is that my dad's birthday is this week. So that's why this topic is the one that I chose for this video, because I know that he would, he's shouting. He's happy that I'm sharing, something that I know he would want me to do. And I love that that is something that I can offer in his name. I'm really glad, and I know this is hard. This is hard to hear. I'm glad I experienced what I experienced before my dad passed away, so that he could teach me. So that he could teach me how to walk through it. And so I had the tools when he passed away to process, to do therapeutic things that helped me feel close to him, and to find ways to celebrate him even after he's gone. So it's real. There's no magic rhyme or reason to processing death. I loved the hand therapy that I did with painting and gardening. I feel like that those things, finding something that you can do with your hands, it's sort of like a quiet process, like even if it's like build a sandcastle, something that happens in your brain when you're able to do that hand therapy, I feel like helps so much. But I know that with death, there's no magic words, and I know there's no magic, like, perspective helps. All the little things that you do along the way help. But there's no rhyme or reason of when it's going to feel better. There's no rhyme or reason of does it get easier or harder. There's no perfect formula for that. Just don't run from your feelings. Let yourself feel. I for sure, even with good coaching, I for sure went into shock a little bit with my daughter's death. And I can talk more about that in another video. But it's okay. Like, wherever you're at is part of the process. So I just hope that maybe that this perspective would help you a tiny, tiny bit, because I know that it's one tiny seed along the way that you're planting, in your heart as you go. And some of them you take, some of the seeds you take, and some of them don't work for you, and that's okay. But I know that you can, I know you can do it, because I have a firm belief that we're never given anything that we can't handle, that our trials and our response to those trials are what make us. They're what make us the person that we are. So with that, I wish you the very best. And I hope that your heart well on a journey of therapy and healing and growing stronger and growing into a being that understands just a little bit more about life and death, having gone through it, having the compassion that you can reach out to others. If you guys have a way that has helped you process and go through the therapy of loved ones that have graduated, if you guys have something that you've done that has been something that you can share, then share it in the comments below, because this is a place where people will come and they can see your comments and you could possibly lift others. So I encourage you to do that and just encourage you well on your journey.